Salama dudes, SaiyanSalamander here, and welcome to the 3rd edition of Salem Suggests. So far I've only been recommending anime and manga series, since it's originally what I intended Salem Suggests to be while I created it on Discord. However, I realised I consume so much more content than just anime and manga, like games, webtoons... Okay, maybe not that much more content than just those ones. Anyway, since it's February, and we're still in the early days of Salem Suggests, I figured I should switch things up this month and recommend a game instead. Like I mentioned, it's February, so of course it's going to be a Fire Emblem game that I'm recommending. It's actually my favourite one in the series that I've played so far, and that game is Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. So 4 years ago now, back in 2017, 18-year-old me was just chilling, probably staying up way too late than normal because a Fire Emblem Direct was just about to start for Nintendo. And at the time I'd have been like, oh shit, cool, a Nintendo Direct purely for Fire Emblem? That's insane! That was around the time Fire Emblem was quickly soaring to the top spot for my favourite series of all time. But it still felt kinda niche, so I definitely wasn't expecting an entire 20-minute direct of information purely about the series. And kicking it off with a bang was the reveal trailer for Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, announced for the 3DS, ahead of a Nintendo Switch Fire Emblem game that would later be released as Fire Emblem Three Houses. I didn't even realise it was a remake initially until the narrator explained that it was a remake of Gaiden, a game that came out 25 years prior to that direct, or 29 years prior to the making of this video. Gaiden was the second ever Fire Emblem game, and the third remake of the series has received so far. Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, aka FE1, and Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem, aka FE3, already received a remake before the surge in popularity before Awakening came out. FE3 is a direct sequel of the original Fire Emblem game, while Gaiden was released and actually chronologically takes place in between the two, and acts as another story taking place in a neighbouring continent where the original game takes place in. So there's a few characters that return from the original game. The game takes place in the continent of Valentia, which has been split into two countries which are ruled by two different dragon deities. There's the Regalian Empire ruled by their patron god Duma, and the country of Zofia ruled by their own patron god, Miller. Regale is an extremely strong nation, however the cold, harsh climate makes it hard for them to grow food and survive. Whereas Zofia is a country who's relatively weak in strength, but whose people live in luxury by partaking in the blessings of the goddess Miller. However, now the two countries are at war, and the blessings of Miller are starting to wane, with Zofia not being the bountiful land that it once was. In the southwest of Zofia lies Ram Village, which is where we meet our two heroes, Alm and Celica, while they're still wee little babbies. The two were virtually inseparable and spent all their time together in the village. Unfortunately, these happy days don't last forever, as some enemy knights attack the village and try to kidnap Celica. Our heroes and their friends are able to fend them off thanks to a lot of help from Alm's grandfather, Mycen, who was once a well-renowned knight in the country of Zofia. While Alm and his friends have no idea why the bandits would want to kidnap Celica, she and Mycen seem to know why, as he claims it's no longer safe for Celica in Ram Village and has to transport her far away to a priory on a distant island called Novis. And that's where our prologue ends. The rest of the game takes place roughly 10 years later, Alm still training in Ram Village, hoping to one day help protect Zofia from Regale, and see Celica again. While Celica is also worried about Alm, believing he'll get himself into trouble, but also worried about her goddess Miller due to the recent decline in the blessings in the land. From there, the game splits off into two routes. Alm's story, where he joins the Deliverance, a group dedicated to the cause of freeing Zofia from its tyrannical ruler, Dessay, and fight back against the incoming threat of Regale. Whereas Celica, on the other hand, goes on a pilgrimage to the Temple of Miller in order to find out what happened to the goddess, believing she's in some kind of trouble. The two heroes' paths occasionally intertwine, but the player controls both groups separately, as they have their own goals to complete. Unlike Three Houses, where you choose one route to play as at the start of the game, Alm and Celica's routes are symbiotic. While you can occasionally choose to play part of one character's route before another, both these character stories happen at the same time, as two halves of one greater tale, instead of alternate paths of one story. Both routes have a really great selection of characters to choose from. I have some favourites like Paula and May in Celica's route, and some other favourites like Lucas and Python in Alm's route, so I don't really think I can choose a favourite between the two groups because of this. I really love the art style of Echoes too. It brings all the characters to life in such a unique way, as it really sets itself apart from the style of the newer games like Fates and Awakening. This is especially the case when you compare the designs of the original Gaiden characters compared to their new looks in Echoes. Giving them a glow up is a severe understatement, as the old Gaiden characters are honestly unrecognisable in a really good way when you see just how they look in Echoes. It makes me really wish I could afford to get the limited edition of Shadows of Valentia at the time, since I bet the art book it looks gorgeous, And honestly, even though it's probably an outrageous amount of money these days, I'd still be very tempted to add that piece of Fire Emblem history to my collection. As well as the art style receiving an exceptional reimagining from the original games, the music composers really outdid themselves too. Don't get me wrong, I really love the classic RPG music that's used in the original game, but just listen to the difference from the original Gaiden compared to its Echoes remake. If you didn't hear anything different, it's probably because copyright issues, so if you didn't, definitely make sure to listen to some of the game's soundtrack after finishing this video. Out of all the tracks though, my favourite OST has gotta be the ending theme, The Heritors of Arcadia. Out of all the lyrical songs we've received in the Fire Emblem game so far, like Lost in Thoughts All Alone from Fates, or The Edge of Dawn from Three Houses, this is by far my favourite one. It's such a beautiful song, and I find myself going back and listening to it occasionally, long after I finish my playthrough of the game. I can't believe I've made it this far into the video without talking about one of my favourite features in the game. While I guess there's just so much I want to talk about in the series, I kinda lost track of it there for a while. Unlike any other game in the franchise, Echoes has an amazing dungeon crawler aspect, which I really wish the series delved into more often. It really made the game feel a lot more immersive, and makes Echoes really stand out on its own compared to the rest of the Fire Emblem games. I'd really love to see Intelligent Systems dive into this aspect of the series more often in newer games, so I'm really hoping we'll see this more often in whatever game we get after Three Houses. They did a nice job adding an open world aspect in the monastery and with the Abyss in the DLC, but I'd love to explore so much more, and I think the games that come closest to hitting that mark on the head is Echoes. Honestly though, even if it's a pretty recent entry, I'd still love to play it again on the Switch. Maybe we could get another remake in next year in 2022, just in time for Gaiden's 30th anniversary and Echoes' 5-year anniversary. It may be a pipe dream, but if not, I can always replay Echoes sometime on the channel, right? Maybe if they could do a deluxe edition. After all, Nintendo seems to love those recently. And they could add all the DLC from the original game with a few graphical upgrades to Nintendo Switch. The DLC was actually really solid, to be honest. They made some cool overclasses where characters would essentially become Super Saiyan versions of whatever class they previously were going, like Soldier to Spartan or from Hero to Conqueror. There's some nice bonus conversations too, which added a bit more depth to the characters you play as in Echoes. And even added a few brand new ones from the Fire Emblem Cypher Card game, which was also really fun. Okay, I better stop myself from talking about Echoes some more, before I commission the first artist I see open and play through the game again on Twitch. If I do that, I'll never end up finishing Three Houses, or get around to all the other classic Fire Emblem games I've yet to play. So I'll end the video just by reiterating what I said at the start really. Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia is by far my favourite entry in the franchise to date, and if you've never given the game or even the series as a whole a shot, then please give the game a try and tell me what you think about the game in the comments. I promise you won't be disappointed. That's all for today, so I really hope you enjoyed the latest installment of Salem Suggests, my dudes. If you enjoyed, then make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more, and leave a comment on what your favourite game is. and what the game, anime, manga, or webtoon you'd like to see me talk about in the future, or one that you just recommend to me to experience. Like I mentioned earlier, I also have a Twitch channel, so if you want to see some live playthroughs of Fire Emblem, or some other games, then definitely check it out in the description below. Also in the description is my Discord server, so if you want to interact more with the Salamander squad, then feel free to join and talk to me and the rest of the community some more. Thanks again for watching everyone, and hopefully I'll see you around soon my dudes. Until next time, bye!